she whispered. "I can't. I'm a widow." She had lost her husband, her home, and every hope of starting over. Alone in the freezing Wyoming winter of 1884, she believed her life had already come to an end. But then a lonely cowboy stopped and offered her something she never expected. Not pity, but a fresh start. He took her to his ranch, gave her a warm home, and slowly showed her that being a widow did not mean being forgotten. But as the snow melted and spring arrived, their lives began to change in a way neither of them expected. What happens when two lonely hearts discover hope in each other? Stay with us until the end to find out. And if you enjoy emotional Western stories, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let's get started. The winter of 1884 came early to the Wyoming Territory, burying the open prairie beneath a blanket of white. The wind swept across the frozen plains like a blade, rattling the wooden signs outside the small frontier town of Red Creek. Samuel Carter had lived alone for nearly 6 years. At 38, he was a quiet cowboy with a weathered face, strong hands, and a small ranch several miles beyond town. He had never been a man of many words. His cattle, horses, and the endless prairie were his companions. That evening, Samuel rode into Red Creek to purchase flour, coffee, and lamp oil. As he stepped from the general store, he noticed a woman standing beneath the wooden awning across the street. She wore a faded black dress and an old brown coat. A small suitcase rested beside her boots. Samuel watched as people passed her without stopping. The woman looked exhausted. Samuel approached slowly. "Ma'am, are you waiting for someone?" She shook her head. "No, sir." Her voice was barely louder than the wind. Samuel glanced at her suitcase. "You got a place to stay tonight?" The woman lowered her eyes. "No." Samuel frowned. "You shouldn't be standing out here. Temperature will drop before sundown." "I know." There was something in her voice that made Samuel stop. She looked toward the snowy road leading out of town. "My husband died last spring," she finally said. "I sold what little we had and came west. I thought perhaps I could find work here." Samuel listened quietly. "But things did not go as I hoped," she continued. "The boarding house wants money I don't have, the hotel is too expensive, and I have nowhere else to go." Samuel removed his gloves. "What's your name?" "Clara." She hesitated before adding, "Clara Bennett?" Samuel nodded. Then Clara suddenly shook her head. "You shouldn't help me." "Why not?" "Because I'm a widow." Samuel looked at her with gentle confusion. "That doesn't make you a bad woman." "No," she whispered, "but it makes me a woman with nothing." Samuel studied her tired face. He knew what loneliness felt like. He had spent years waking to an empty house and eating supper at a table meant for two. Finally, he held out his hand. "Come with me." Clara stared at him. "To your ranch?" "Yes." "I cannot repay you." Samuel gave a faint smile. "I didn't ask you to." Clara's eyes filled with tears. Samuel picked up her suitcase and carried it toward his horse. "Ma'am," he said, "sometimes a person doesn't need charity. Sometimes they just need someone willing to give them another chance." For the first time in months, Clara felt a small spark of hope. She followed him into the falling snow. Samuel's ranch stood several miles beyond Red Creek, surrounded by endless Wyoming prairie and snow-covered hills. When Clara arrived that evening, she expected nothing more than a warm corner where she could survive the winter. Instead, Samuel opened the door to his small ranch house and said, "You'll have the bedroom. I'll sleep near the fire." Clara stared at him. "You're giving me your room?" "It's warmer." She lowered her eyes. "I don't understand why you're doing this." Samuel hung his coat beside the door. "Because someone once gave me a second chance." He never explained further. During the first few weeks, Clara remained quiet. She helped Samuel with cooking, cleaning, and feeding the chickens. Slowly, the lonely ranch began to feel alive again. Samuel noticed the change but said nothing. One morning, Clara found him repairing a broken fence. "You'll hurt your hands in this cold," she said. Samuel smiled. "Been doing it for 20 years. You don't have to do everything alone." He looked at her for a moment. "Neither do you." Those words stayed with Clara. As winter slowly weakened, Clara became stronger. She learned to ride Samuel's old mare, Daisy, and began helping him manage the ranch. One afternoon, Samuel returned from town carrying a small wooden box. "I brought you something." Clara opened it carefully. Inside was a simple silver locket. Her eyes immediately filled with tears. "I can't accept this." "You can. My husband gave me one just like it." Samuel's expression softened. "I'm not trying to replace him." Clara looked down at the locket. "Then why?" "Because you deserve something that reminds you tomorrow can be different from yesterday." Clara began to cry. Samuel stepped closer but kept his distance. "You've spent months calling yourself a widow," he said gently. "But that isn't all you are, Clara. You're a woman who survived." Spring finally arrived across Wyoming. The snow melted from the fields, wildflowers appeared along the creek, and Samuel's ranch began to prosper. One evening, beneath a golden sunset, Samuel stood beside the barn. "Clara," he said, "I know you came here needing a place to stay." She looked at him. "But somewhere along the way," Samuel continued, "this stopped feeling like my ranch." Clara smiled. "Because it became ours?" Samuel nodded. Then he took her hand. "I won't ask you to forget the life you had. I only want to know if you'd let me build a new one with you." Clara's eyes filled with happy tears. "For the first time," she whispered, "I'm not afraid of tomorrow." And beneath the wide Wyoming sky, the lonely cowboy and the widow who thought her life was over finally found a new beginning together.